All right, what's going on, everybody? So we are just on the precipice of Oscar season. And in particular, I wanted to bring someone on before all the fall festivals start because theoretically, all the movies that are coming out are theoretically good in our head. So I think it'll just be funny to look back on this and our conversation will just half of it won't even apply anymore. But I wanted to bring someone on who knows what they're talking about, who is just well knowledge in the space. So I have Film Twitter King. You probably already follow him. Matt Neglia from Next Best Picture. Sir, thank you for coming on in your busy schedule.
Okay, first of all, I am no king, but I really appreciate the sentiment.
Yep.
Yes, my schedule is insanely busy. I like to keep busy. Everybody who knows me knows that I normally don't have time for anything. So,
Yep.
but when you hit me up and you said, "Hey, I want to talk about the fall film festivals," number one, I found it was appropriate to pay you back after you so graciously came on our show to review Drive My Car last
Oh,
season.
yeah. Yep.
And also too, I just really wanted to come back here. I love your show. I love what you do, man, and I love the following that you've cultivated. So happy to chat anytime.
Jeez, appreciate it. Jeez, such kind. I'm gonna clip that. It's gonna be my alarm just when I wake up. Okay, so we kind of I didn't prep you at all for this, and we're kind of just gonna be jumping around. I have a list of topics either from
Okay.
myself, and then we have a bunch of Twitter questions that we'll try to get to as many of them as we can. But let's start big picture here because I'm very curious on what you think because we haven't really talked after the Coda won Best Picture and all that concluded.
Hmm.
So to set the stage, last Oscars, 16.6 million viewers,
Yeah.
up 58% from 10.5 million.
Which, you know, not a
Yeah,
shocker.
right. Totally not a shocker. The show was over 3 hours long.
Yep.
They cut some of the categories, which you're very vocal about. We'll get to that in a second.
Yep.
Song performances galore, the montages and tributes, kinda hit or miss, at least in my opinion.
Hmm.
Will Smith slap, obviously.
Memorable, but for the wrong reasons.
Uh-huh. So my big picture question, starting off with a banger. As an award show or business, in your opinion, are the Oscars in a good place right now? Should they be encouraged after the last Oscars? What is your feeling on that?
No, not at all. I don't
All
think
right.
so. Because while there are going to be some people who will look at the numbers and only the numbers, I think encouragement would have been over 20 million viewers.
Yeah.
They still were below that number. And granted, it was still a very transitional year with movie theaters. Some people went, some people didn't. But that really still isn't that much of an excuse when you consider that, HBO had all their movies streaming throughout the year with
Yeah.
Dune, King Richard. There was also, I think, just a lot of heightened awareness brought about the show due to controversy aside, the Oscars fan favorite and cheer
Oh, I
moment.
forgot about that. Yeah.
So as much as I want to like forget those things, what I find to be almost a terrible godsend in a way was that the Will Smith Chris Rock incident generated the kind of buzz that the show wishes it could generate on its own
Yeah.
without something like that happening. It was easily the most talked about moment in Oscar history since the Moonlight La La Land Best Picture fiasco. And it takes those live television spontaneous moments
Mhm.
to really generate that kind of buzz. I think that more so than anything will bring some people back next year because it's a live television event. You don't ever really know what's going to happen.
Right.
I think everything else that they tried to do to get people to watch, it was severely misguided. You have a
Totally.
James Bond tribute, aka like a video package, but yet like for no substantial reason.
Yeah.
The Godfather tribute was also very half-assed and didn't seem like there was a lot of thought put into it. A lot of this honestly like should just go back, I think, to basics.
Mhm.
And I really do feel that if they take a back to basics approach
Yeah.
with not trying to overthink everything,
Right.
I honestly do believe that the show will kind of course correct itself almost. But they're not going to do that because they're not interested in making a show that fans of the Oscars like you, myself, and others who still go back and watch old videos on YouTube to relive those glory day moments. They're not going to try to make the best show for us. They're going to
Right.
try and make a show.
Hmm.
I'm not going to say the best show, but a show that will cater to everyone but us.
Right.
And that's how they think they're going to get over that 20 million hump again. That's how they hope that they're going to continue their relationship with ABC.
Hmm.
Because if they don't increase these numbers, and if the show continues to keep generating like bad buzz in the trades, and also too, like I said, the controversy itself was exactly that. It was unfortunate. It was a really terrible incident, and it hurt a lot of people to watch it unfold. Hurt a
Yeah.
lot of people in the room too. That's not the kind of thing that you want as far as a moment to drive interest for your show. So I really do think that they need to bring it back to basics and just go back to the drawing board. I think they're going to do that? I don't think so. I think we're going to continue seeing conversations about how can we make the show shorter? We got to
Yeah.
cut this. We're not going to be doing this anymore, and it's going to drive purists like myself absolutely crazy.
Right.
But this is what happens, unfortunately, when you're at the mercy of a network that is paying them millions of dollars and wants to see something back in return.
Yeah. Yep. And see, for the people watching, that's why I brought Matt on. Didn't prep him at all. He just golden right there. Okay. With that, did and obviously this is, we don't know anything, but do you think they're gonna so you think they are gonna keep most of the changes that they did? Like some of the Oscars fan favorite or cutting the categories?
I mean, it's too early right now to say for sure what they are and are not going to do. I
Right.
will say this. I do think that fan favorite cheer moment, there is a very good chance that that does come back again, only they instead of a cheer moment, they do something else. But the
Yeah.
fan favorite, I think, will definitely come back because
Hmm.
well, as long as nobody confuses it with it being an actual Oscar win, because it's not.
Right.
It
Right.
annoys me to this day that
Yeah. Oh man.
IMDb has it listed on the
Oh,
awards
just
page.
awful.
It's not an actual Oscar that's given. It's just a fan voted poll that's simply used to drive social media interest for the show. That's all it is.
Yep.
Um, Otherwise, I don't see the harm in it, as
Hmm.
stupid and silly as it is. If it gets more people to watch, it's a small sacrifice that I'm willing to make, especially when you consider they were willing to create an actual new Oscar called Best Popular Film, if you recall. They
Yeah.
were going to do this back in 2018,
Yep.
and they did away with that. So if this was the compromise and this is all it's going to be moving forward, I can live with that. What I
Right.
can't live with is I can't live with this experiment that they tried this year where they edited down speeches, only showed like less than a minute
Hmm.
per person that got up on that stage.
Right.
And you could tell it was edited. You could tell that the cutaway shots to the crowd were not real, they were inorganic. And I think it was pretty universally negatively panned
Yeah.
by people who love the Oscars and people who don't watch the Oscars. Like, I mean, people in my family were watching, they were like, that was weird. What was that?
Right.
And they didn't
Yep.
like even fully know that it was happening.
Hmm.
It happening meaning the change. They didn't know prior beforehand that the change had occurred, that they were going to do this. So
Right.
when they were watching it, they were like, "Is this edited?" And I texted them and I said, "Yeah, no, this is a whole thing this year and cutting down time." Well, guess what? Turns out the show went over anyway. So then the
Right.
question becomes, well, what do you cut now? You tried your little social experiment. It didn't work. I say let the show be, as long as let the show be.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
let it be what it is. But what you need to do is, instead of doing decisions like this that are going to just piss off your core audience,
Hmm.
make a show that is as long as it needs to be,
Right.
3.5 hours, whatever,
Hmm.
but at least make it they're trying to make it an entertaining show for people who don't watch the Oscars. I'm
Yeah.
saying make it a show about movies for all movie lovers, those who watch Oscars and those who don't watch the Oscars.
Mhm.
And like I said, these ideas of a random tribute or a video package where how do you not have like Daniel Craig or somebody like come out like for the James Bond tribute?
Yeah.
It's like if you can't get the right presenter, then don't do it.
Yep.
You know what I mean? I remember I think it was 2014, I want to say. I remember there was a one montage in particular that was set to oh man, it was set to I remember it was Interstellar. So maybe it
Mhm.
wasn't 2014, maybe it was 2015. But there was like this great video package that just showed like all these classic cinema moments and just highlighting what makes movies like so magical.
Yeah.
And like that was the kind of stuff that, when it was all over, you watched it and you thought, man, this is why I love award shows because they remind me of how much I love movies, not just the ones that are being celebrated this year, but in general.
Right.
And I think that's what they should try to appeal to is they should try to appeal to movie lovers, not
Mhm.
Oscar fans, not people who don't ever watch the Oscars. I think they should just try to appeal to any person that's ever watched the movie and loved the movie.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I pretty much agree. I mean, it feels like they're just doing, like, a lot of fluff, if that makes sense, to kinda
Yeah.
around it. Like, the fan favorite, honestly, it doesn't really bother me, I just think it's kinda funny. But
Oh
at the
yeah.
end of the day, it's like, that
It's
won't
a
really.
joke.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's not gonna what, that's gonna, like, swing the
Which movie
viewership?
has the bigger, fan base, essentially is all it is. Like
Exactly.
who's got the bigger stands?
Yep. Oh, My Policeman, that's happening.
That's
That's
clearly gonna be it this
like
year.
that's Morbius, Minions, My Policeman, maybe a Timothy Chalamet, Bones and
You
all,
know
like,
what? Maybe
something's
Don't
gotta
Worry,
happen.
Darling, because then you get the Florence
Oh,
Pugh and
oh,
the Harry Styles fans.
yes, that one for sure, 100%. That one for
Yeah.
sure. Okay, so
Bones and all, even though
yeah,
nobody will
yeah,
have seen it.
yeah. No one, like 100 people have seen it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you kinda
I don't
touched
know.
on
I
it.
don't know. Maybe some people will see it.
Yeah,
I'm just
yeah.
yeah.
I'm excited for it. I'm
Me too.
excited for it. I mean, you kinda touched on it, so I feel like we kinda know your thoughts, but you were, like, very, very outspoken against the cutting of the categories, at least from the live
Yes.
one. I think I remember it was either a tweet or you on your own podcast. You didn't say that you weren't gonna watch it because obviously you were, but you said, like, for the first time in a while, you either, like, weren't really that excited or, like, it genuinely upset you, something like that.
Yeah.
So I asked you in the beginning, like, where are the Oscars? What is the state of the Oscars like as a business or an award show? Like, what about like for you personally? Like, is did last year change anything for you, or still just kind of going on?
It's hard because I got to admit, you ever host a party?
Hmm.
So when you host a party, you spend a lot of time in the lead up to it, organizing, getting all the food, calling all your guests, trying to figure out who's going to do what, are there any kind of relationships you need to watch out for where certain people can't mingle or whatever? You know what I mean? Like you're
Yeah.
hosting. You want to
Right.
make sure everybody has a good time and everybody's comfortable, right?
Uh-huh.
So then when the actual night comes along, and I don't know, maybe some people do this differently than others. I find that whenever I host a party, I'm too busy running the show to enjoy the moment and actually partake and have fun.
Yeah.
So when I watch the Oscars, I'm working. And there's a part
Yeah.
of me that does miss watching it as a viewer and as a fan
Uh-huh.
because a lot of the moments that happen, a lot of times they occur and my brain is operating on so many levels in terms of implications that it's hard for me to sometimes even just digest what has just occurred.
Yeah.
I felt that way especially this past year where a lot of the winners were very predictable.
Hmm.
So there wasn't like a shocking left field win to kind of throw us for a loop and
Yeah.
go, oh my God, like so and so just lost, nothing like that this year. So, in a way, as I'm ferociously tweeting and like updating the website and interacting with people, trying to pay attention to memes during commercials, also, too, I'm watching it with other people. So I'm trying to be social with them at the same
Yeah.
time. Like I'm exhausted by the end usually. Then we do a 2 hour podcast reaction right after it's over, then
Right.
bed. um, there are a couple of times where I sometimes like get to the end and I say to myself, "Wow, all of that buildup, and that's all it was." Sometimes though, the journey is more worth it than the
Yeah.
destination.
Yeah,
And
totally.
that's something that I feel like we try to instill in everybody that listens to our show over at Next Best Picture, which is to not get so emotionally invested
Mhm.
in the outcome, because there has to be a winner and there has to be multiple losers. And I think that the whole winning and losing part of it all, from a competitive standpoint, it's sort of fun, I suppose. But at the end of the day, this is not something to get so bent out of shape over. This
Yeah.
is just purely fun. And also, then there is the business aspect of it, which sometimes, you know, it just supersedes your ideal way that you want things to go.
Mhm.
So you got to look at it from a lot of different angles and just try to block it all out and just enjoy the show at the end of the day. And that's what I try to do now is I just simply try to not think of it of, oh my gosh, like my predictions are not going the way I want them to. I don't try to look at it from that standpoint because quite frankly, I'm not that obsessed with
Mhm.
it. And
Yeah.
that I'm obsessed with making the prediction. But then
Right.
once the night comes and my predictions are locked
Oh,
in,
yeah. It's
I
just
kind of just have whatever's going to happen is going to happen mentality.
yeah.
Like no one's gonna die, you know,
Mm.
like if I'm not right with my predictions, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Right.
um what I just try to do is I try to make sure that I savor the moment as much as I can, even though like I said, it's hard for me
Mhm.
because well, one, you think about like the YouTube clips that are gonna go up like later of the speeches and stuff.
Yeah.
So you'll always have those moments to kind of go back to relive, to remember how you felt throughout that entire season and how it culminated in this moment where this particular person won.
Mhm.
And that's the thing is that when you're watching that speech on YouTube later, you'll then think back on all the other stuff that happened in between that evening that they
Right.
don't have captured there on YouTube.
Yeah.
And you'll try to just remember, like I said, the journey and the lead up for maybe that particular race or whatever it was, because none of that is being highlighted anywhere other than through our articles, our podcasts, and overall just commentary on the race in general.
Right.
See, to me, I'm more interested in like the story itself, the
Mhm.
ultimate story of what's being told over the course of a season.
Yeah.
Um, and that's not to say, and like, you know, for me, I don't really particularly have like a dog in a fight. You
Mhm.
know, I'm just more interested in standing back and observing and watching how Hollywood operates, how these studio campaigns operate, how the stars and the people do they like going to these parties and shaking hands and having to be a goody two shoes about everything in hopes for win. There are some who scoff it off and don't care and they don't play that game whatsoever. And
Yeah.
yet maybe sometimes they're the ones who get rewarded, you know? So it's fascinating to just kind of watch it all play out. And that's the part for me as a fan. And when I say a fan, I'm not saying of Oscars, like I said, just of movies.
Right.
That to me is the part that I find to be fun and fascinating. It's not so much about the end result.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's really well said. I think I agree. I think I even said once, like, everything leading up to the ceremony is better than like the actual
Yeah.
ceremony, which I think most people would probably agree with.
You know what's the worst kind of year?
Huh.
It's a year where one film just wins everything
Yeah.
and there
Yeah.
are
No.
no twists and turns in the lead up
Yeah.
to the ceremony. The
Yeah.
best years are the ones where I mean, it's great when you have a race in best picture. If you've got two films that are like heading into the night, you don't know which one of the two it's going to be. That's great. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah. Yeah.
love that drama because by the time you get to the end of the night, but by win tally alone, you can get a pretty good idea of what's going to happen.
Mhm.
So the suspense is usually gone on the evening,
Yeah. Exactly.
but that's why what you should just do is, you know, take a seat back and just try to enjoy the show. I know last year it was hard to enjoy. The year before that, it was also really hard to enjoy. They didn't show many clips throughout the
Uh,
show
yeah.
because once again, they're not highlighting the movies that are nominated that year. It's like they're ashamed of the
I
movies that are
know.
nominated.
Yeah.
That's really hurtful and I think really embarrassing on their part.
Mhm.
Um, but I think that's what they need to do this year. Is I really think they need to go out of their way to highlight and showcase how wonderful the films that they did nominate are. Not worry so much about the films that didn't get nominated, despite what the public says. Instead of like, yeah, okay, fine, you wanted. I'm going to throw this one out there because this is the one that gets brought up a lot.
Mhm.
You wanted Spider-Man, No Way Home to be nominated for Best Picture.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. But have you seen this other one that was nominated? Have you seen it yet? No. Let me tell you a little bit about it. Let's show you why this movie is worth your time.
Hmm.
And I think that everybody should be walking away from the Oscars with at least one film from the Best Picture lineup, at least one that they haven't seen and going, you know what? I'm going to check that out.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that's why the Oscars are great for, just like showcasing those kind of movies like that.
Yes. And
Totally.
that's why like a film like, a film like Spider-Man No Way Home that makes all that kind of money,
Yeah.
it doesn't really need that boost. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Now I'm not saying that that's like a be all end all argument here. There
Hmm.
are movies that make a ton of money that also get nominated for Best Picture and sometimes are in the conversation.
Yeah.
There are so many different factors that go into the nomination process and the thinking behind why is this film getting nominated versus another. I
Hmm.
talk to film critics every single year who have like a top 10 list that doesn't include a single Best Picture nominee on it. And that just comes down to the fact that everybody's tastes are very, very different.
Yep.
But one thing I think that does come through a lot of the time is when you have a large voting group, and in this particular case, like 10,000 people within the academy,
Yeah.
it's inevitable that there will be a broad popular consensus. And the more niche films are the ones that are not going to get that support. When you have a smaller group, like a critics group
Hmm.
in, Kentucky or whatever, I don't know, and there's like only 16 people voting,
Yeah.
you can get some more eclectic choices.
Right.
When you have 16,000 people voting, not so much.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Okay.
I
Well,
know
I
I'm going
mean,
off on tangents here.
no,
I
no,
apologize.
this is great. This is great. This is like my brain is flying all over the place with all these. So, speaking of kind of like the journey, and like I feel like a lot of people, strangely enough, care more about like the nominations and like the winner in a sense. I've only been doing this like a few years in terms of like
Mhm.
even being in the Oscars. Like I've had my channel less than 2 years. I've been into the Oscars like a couple more years after that. Really, I'm still like pretty new in this. So, like, in your opinion, where do you think this like Oscar, I don't know what you call it, punditry or prognosticators, like, where do you think that's going? Like, do you think people are like more interested from like when you started, or is there just like there's just more talk on spaces like Twitter or YouTube? What do you think about that?
It's interesting because I do pay attention. I do see a lot of young up and coming people who are talking about this stuff and want to get into it. I do sometimes question the motivation as to why they're into it.
Hmm.
For me, at the end of the day, I love movies. I just
Yeah.
love the industry and I love the Oscars. And I know that they're all intertwined,
Hmm.
So even like for myself, I love all types of movies.
Right.
I do gravitate towards movies that tend to get nominated for Oscars because, they have broader appeal and I'm a bit
Yeah.
of a populist in that regard. But I do love international films and art house films that sometimes get completely overlooked by the Academy too. So as I'm just a movie lover at the end of the day, pure and simple.
Hmm.
Um, so when I find people on the internet who are showing to me that they're movie lovers first, and
Hmm.
Oscars happen to be a secondary thing that's kind of part of that. Those
Yeah.
are the people that I want to interact with a little bit more. When
Hmm.
I
I
see
got you.
people like making these grand statements who I know are not in the know, and I know they're not like talking to studios, but what they're trying to do is they're trying to like put a foot forward to say like, oh, I know something that everybody else doesn't know, and like I deserve to be in this space as much as you know, et cetera, et cetera. And it's like, okay, fine, maybe, but I don't know who you are. I don't know what your credibility is. I've never seen your work before.
Yeah.
And I think some people just go about it the wrong way. They try to kind of force themselves in almost.
Hmm.
I think that like I said, the people I gravitate towards a lot in this space are the ones who kind of organically rise. And they rise through their work. They let their work speak for itself. They're not constantly in your DMs or in your comments saying, I think your prediction is wrong and here's mine.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
what are you trying to prove here? You know what I mean?
Right.
Um, right or wrong predictions don't really even matter anyway.
Hmm.
Okay. It's not about that. I
Right.
can tell you right now, some of the people that you also probably will think of, I'm not going to name names here, who are in established positions or getting paid to do this and follow the Oscars like it's a religion. They have some of the worst predictions in terms of winners and such, but nobody cares. It's not about that. It's
Yeah.
more about what else they bring to the table along with that.
Uh-huh.
That's why we listen. We listen to hear the commentary. We listen to hear the journalism that's being put into, digging stories up about these contenders and reporting on them. And also, too, how are you framing the season's narrative? And is it
Mhm.
a narrative that is compelling enough to get me as a listener or as a viewer to want to read or listen to what it is you're doing?
Right.
I,
Yeah.
I think that in a way, like we have to be storytellers in our own right.
Yeah. Totally.
Um, Now that doesn't mean that there needs to be like any kind of embellishment or anything like that, but simply just going into somebody's comments and saying, "Oh, I disagree with you. Here's my prediction instead." It's like I don't think you're putting your best foot forward in terms of wanting to get into the world of Oscar punditry if
Yeah.
all you're doing all day is disagreeing with what the quote unquote experts are saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just create a channel, create a website, create something.
Mhm.
Let your work speak for yourself and just keep doing it. Be consistent with it. And guess what? People will catch on to it.
Mhm.
Especially like if you're listen, dude, I follow your channel. You don't have, no offense, a ton of followers. You have
Yeah.
a loyal base of followers
Yeah.
and you have engaging content.
Right.
And that's how I discovered you. And I know that's how a bunch of people are discovering you. And all you got to do, man, is just keep doing it. I guarantee you it's going to organically rise. And you
Right.
never know where it's going to take you from there. It's the people that literally want to get popular or make money or just like get invited to event screenings or whatever. Like those are the people that are trying to do it too quick. And
Mhm.
let me tell you, everyone can see right through it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's really good advice because honestly, like with my thing, I didn't tell anybody, didn't tell my family,
Mhm.
didn't tell my girlfriend. I was like, I'm just putting these out here, closing my eyes, and then whatever happens, happens.
Yeah.
So yeah, just for anyone else out there who's like trying to do this, yeah, totally, just follow that. Okay. So we'll get like two more questions on like the past or big picture stuff. Then we'll kind of look forward ahead
Mhm.
to this year. So with I was listening to a podcast of yours, and not just you, but like a whole bunch of other people. With how the race was going last year, a lot of people kind of fell back on stats. And because I
Yeah.
mean, last year, so many stats were broken from decades long. So I guess my question on that is pretty simple. I mean, did last year change how you felt in terms of, I don't want to say reliance on, but using stats to kind of guide you, or was it just like a weird year because still transition, COVID, all that kind of stuff?
No, last year definitely was. If there was ever a year where I should not have let stats dictate my judgment, it was last year. Now, granted, that was only with one category.
Hmm. Yeah, right.
It just happened to be the biggest category of
Yeah,
all.
all
But
good.
everything else, though, the stats got me the winners in all the other categories.
Hmm.
So I think it was kind of silly that there was like this late last minute surge for like Penelope Cruz, and then people got spooked
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
switched their best actress prediction over from Chastain over to her.
Yep.
I really think that there is a lot of times a winning a winning formula that occurs.
Hmm.
It's very rare, and this is what makes it exciting though.
Uh-huh.
It's exciting as hell to predict what you think is going to happen,
Hmm.
and everybody seems to agree with you, like literally 99%, and then the unthinkable happens and there is an upset, and it's
Yeah.
something that like nobody saw coming. I think back a lot to Ex Machina winning best visual effects over Mad Max Fury Road, The Revenant, Star Wars The Force Awakens, and The Martian.
Yep.
Literally there was no evidence to suggest that that
Yeah.
was going to happen at
Yeah.
all. And so things like that I think are fun because you will never forget those moments. You never
Mhm.
ever forget them. And they always stand out in your mind when you're making your future predictions, because then you'll always say, you know what? There was that one time where this happened and it subverted all of our expectations. what if we're heading for another moment like that? So then you know what you do? You start talking about it. You open up a dialogue. I do think that referencing those older past moments is helpful to not fall into the realm of predictability where with your predictions, right? Predictable
Hmm.
predictions.
Yeah.
Where okay, fine, this person won every single award, Critics' Choice, Golden Globe, SAG, BAFTA. Clearly he's going to win the Oscar, right? And the answer is yes, but let's look at some other factors really quick before we, even if they've won everything, you still want to see, okay, who else has a Best Picture nomination that's also nominated here? Did this person do well with critics, but just didn't do well with the industry?
Hmm.
Why? What kind of movie are they a part of? Is it a movie that alienates people, or is it a movie that makes them feel good? Like there are all these questions that you can ask, and this is the fun stuff. This is
Right.
the part that why I like this. There's an element to it that is, I don't know. Like I said, it's not competitive. There's no real big stakes involved. It's fun. That's
Hmm.
all it is.
Right.
It's like sports commentary, but for movies.
Exactly.
You
Exactly.
know?
That's exactly what I compare it to. Yep.
Right. Exactly. So I do think that having those moments of surprise are good and they're healthy. Last year, I was just stubborn.
Yeah.
I knew, and I even said it on our show last year, our podcast. I knew Coda was going to win. I knew it because all the signs were pointing to it, but I just could not let go of the fact that Power of the Dog had 12 nominations, was winning director, stood a good chance to win something else, even
Hmm.
if I wasn't predicting it to. But I
Yeah.
had just a lot of trouble being like, I'm going to predict it to win director and nothing else.
Right.
That didn't sit right with me. That's what ended up happening, but it didn't feel right, and it still doesn't feel right. Like I like Coda. It's a good movie.
Yeah.
No way is that the best picture winner for me. I just
Agreed.
my own personal feelings on the matter are that I think that when Russia invaded Ukraine, I think it just cast everybody in a really, really bummer mood.
Mm.
And when they saw Coda win the SAG award, it was like Parasite, where it was just that feel good, winner. You were very happy for all the members of the cast. And it just created this like last minute snowball effect where then all of a sudden the movie just started winning everything at the very, very end. And all the things that it won were enough to get it over the finish line for Best Picture,
Right.
listen, I'm not saying it was one thing. There were other factors involved. Clearly, like Apple has a lot of money to throw around,
Yeah.
as we all know. So that has something to do with it. There's also something to be said for the fact that the movies that make you feel something, the movies that actually go for your heart versus the cerebral, intellectual films,
Hmm.
those are the movies that win Best Picture, not these movies.
Right.
These are the movies that win director or screenplay or something, and then they're the ones that get taught in film school like years down the road.
Hmm.
Coda winning Best Picture, its legacy is that it's a Best Picture winner, and people will forever see that, look back, and maybe for completionists or young people looking to find a blueprint on, oh, where should I start with like watching movies in general? Like I'm sure you went through this at some point too when you're young. You want to watch movies, but you're like, oh, I don't know what movies exist. I've
Right.
never heard of it. I've never heard of movies. Like, where do I go to find them? I mean, now you can just go on the internet. I mean, back then in my, anyway, it's a little bit different for me. But at the same time, like, you can go to the Oscars and see, oh, this won Best Picture. Oh, this was nominated for Best Picture. Oh, this won cinematography. And it's a way to discover new films if you haven't seen them before. And that's what
Right.
they're going to be for future generations.
Yeah. No, totally. I mean, that's well said. I mean, I don't need to get into my thoughts on Coda. Everyone knows my thoughts on Coda here. Um,
It's a perfectly okay
yeah,
movie. It
it's
just
fine. It's solid.
I'm not even that upset about the Best Picture win. It was more of the adapted screenplay win that upset me more than anything.
Man, yeah, we don't have to send you, but Belfast and
Yeah, yeah,
Coda
yeah.
being our screenplay winner is just is it's just cursed. Absolutely cursed.
You
Anyways,
know what? Belfast winning screenplay is actually one of those things where I really did not mind it because at least with
fair enough.
that, I had investment in Kenneth Branagh
Sure.
winning.
I can get that. I can get
and
that.
and it's weird because like I don't even really like him as a filmmaker. I
Yeah.
don't think he I really think his output is not that great
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah.
But he's had such a long career. He had been nominated times before. Like, now he's got his Oscar. You know who's going to get another chance to beat the Oscars with his next film? Paul Thomas Anderson. Why? Because every time he makes a movie, he's in the Oscar conversation.
Right.
Kenneth Branagh, this was probably his one and only
Yeah,
chance.
this is it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
that was it.
And you know, that I think that had something to do with it too.
Yeah.
So
That's
I
fair.
don't mind. I don't mind it as much.
That's fair. That's a fair point. I do not enjoy that movie. Anyways, uh last question in terms of big picture, then we'll kind of move forward ahead because I know
Hmm.
people want to talk about that. You mentioned Spider-Man No Way Home, and I'm not
Yes.
gonna, essentially going to give my thoughts on that, but bigger picture, I've actually gotten some questions where it's like, what are my thoughts on the expanded lineup? And essentially, is the expanded lineup necessary? Is it a failure? Just
Hmm.
because obviously we don't need to go through like the Dark Knight and everything like that, but I think people were under the assumption that the expansion was to include more mainstream, bigger movies. And outside of like one, like a Joker or a Black Panther, it seems like the Academy is maybe like doubling down on the quote smaller, more artier movies. So I guess my question is just, do you have any thoughts on the expanded lineup at all?
So I do think that that is a common misconception
Hmm.
because yes, everybody wants to point towards Joker and Black Panther because they're comic book movies that made over $1 billion. Totally understandable. But they're not mentioning A Star is Born, Bohemian Rhapsody, Once
Hmm.
Upon a Time in Hollywood made money. You
Yeah.
know, like there are a lot of other movies that have been nominated that did pretty darn well at the box office. They weren't
Hmm.
that well as those other movies,
Yeah.
but they still, I mean, Bohemian Rhapsody, I mean, pretty much was.
Yeah.
But I
Pretty
mean, you
pretty
know,
much.
my this is my point though, is that I think that what this argument has just simply turned into lately is it's an extension of the whole this is and this is not cinema
Yeah.
argument.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily what I want to like get into here because this is a very nuanced conversation that honestly could have its own like 2 hours dedicated to it.
So yeah.
But all I will say is I love the expansion.
Hmm.
I don't feel that there is any obligation whatsoever to have a high grossing movie amongst
Hmm.
the nominees. I do think that sometimes money can help. Um, but people need to realize something very important, which is yes, this industry is a business, and this business' number one goal is to make money
Yeah.
because we live in a capitalist society, right?
Hmm.
So I think movies that are made with that intent so blatantly, I say that so blatantly obvious,
Yeah.
I think they're the ones that often do get shunned because people want to believe that they're voting for a little bit of the artistic integrity,
Yeah.
even if like they know, okay, yeah, no, it was a commercial project, it did well, but you know, there was some real artistry going on in there. Like, say what you will about like the first Avatar film back in 2009, it was groundbreaking in terms
Hmm.
of the visual effects.
Yeah.
So that's why that film got recognized the way that it did, because it was revolutionary for you know what it did with 3D and so on and so forth. Um, a movie like Spider-Man: No Way Home, it made people feel good. It made a lot of money. No revolutionary special effects whatsoever.
Hmm.
Didn't do anything groundbreaking in storytelling. I mean, everyone will say, "Oh, the Peter Parkers like came together and everything like that," but I mean, I'm sorry, like Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and there have been other movies that have had like crossovers and things like that before, you know.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest thing of all is that that movie, that's that studio, Marvel Studios in general, they need to they being the Academy, they need to see that a movie is being made for something more than just the sole purpose to entertain and make money. There
Yeah.
needs to be another element there, you
Sure.
know, and that's why Black Panther I think got through.
Hmm.
And I wonder what Wakanda Forever is going to do this year, you know, in terms of that.
Yeah.
Will it come back? I don't know. It's a very, very big question mark as we head into, you know, this later stage of the year. But when it comes to any kind of a blockbuster film of that sort, that is the thing that they're looking for. Is they're looking for, does this push the medium forward in any sort of way?
Right.
Is this something that has never been done before?
Yeah.
And even with these elements, sometimes it's still not enough. 16,000 people, you have to convince a lot of people of certain arguments to have them get it into a lineup like that. It's
Yeah.
not enough to just be a film that is so broadly seen and makes people feel good. If that was the case, then, just look at your top 10 box office performers for the year, and that would be your best picture lineup, but it's
Right.
not.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, for anyone wondering my thoughts on expanded lineup, I like it. I like
I
that
love
some
it.
of I like that some of these movies that would never sniff Best Picture if there was five. I like that they can call themselves Best Picture nominees.
Yeah. I mean,
So
look at
that's my thoughts.
like there are so many cool ones, that never would have gotten into a normal lineup, like A Serious Man is Best Picture nominee, District
District
9.
9, yeah.
That's one of the coolest Best Picture
Yeah.
nominees
Right.
ever.
Yeah.
Drive My Car. I don't know if Drive My Car would have gotten in a year of five. It's tight.
Probably. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, like there's a lot of examples I could think of where this expanded lineup has gotten a film in, like Hell or High Water getting into Best Picture was pretty neat. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't think they should go back to five. I think 10 is. I think they always should have had it at 10
Hmm.
since 2009.
Yeah.
They did the sliding scale thing. I
Eh,
think that was a
I
big
hated that.
mistake.
Yeah, I hated
I
that.
mean, we're always now forever looking back at those lost years where,
Yeah.
oh man, if it was
Uh,
10, what would have been the one or the two that
yeah.
missed?
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess people kind of know my thoughts on Spider-Man for Best Picture. I didn't need it to happen. At the same time, though, just as a tangent, I will say the movies that were like talked about as maybe for Best Picture, like House of Gucci, being the
Yeah.
Ricardos. I'll be perfectly honest. I like Spider-Man more than those, but that's
I,
neither here nor there.
I really think that when it came to all of the choices that were on the table,
Hmm.
to go with Drive My Car and Nightmare Alley,
Yes. Yeah.
I
Yeah. Yeah.
mean, like, I think the
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Academy did
Trust me.
more than
I agree
okay.
on. I
Yeah.
agree on that. I agree with that.
Like,
100%.
Don't Look Up aside.
Sure.
I
For
mean, because
me,
quite honestly, like, Don't Look Up was really like a non-factor last year in so many ways. I mean, it
yeah.
won. I remember when it scared the shit out of everybody when it won WGA,
Oh yeah.
because up until that point,
That was
people
fun.
were just like, "Oh, all right, fine, it's here. It's not a serious contender to win anything. No, whatever. I'm gonna let it go." And then when
Yeah.
it won WGA, people were like, "Are we really doing this? Is this really happening?"
Man, I remember I tweeted that film Twitter deserves a Don't Look Up Best Picture win. And then like a couple hours later, it won WGA and people
Yep.
went back to my tweet. It was like so upset, like I willed that to happen. Anyways, okay. Wow. Okay, so that was a great conversation. But let's move a little forward
Mhm.
to this year because I know that's what people want. So the reason I wanted to get someone on before all the fall film festivals, just because they're all question marks basically. So I think that kind of makes it more fun. But sight unseen, I don't know when this is going out, but nothing has premiered yet from there,
Mhm.
really. How are you feeling in terms of this year's potential crop of awards films? It's just like I know that's a kind of basic question, but like,
Yeah.
what are you feeling?
I got to admit, I'm a little heartbroken about Killers of the Flower Moon not being here.
Yep, yep, yep.
I really feel like that this award season could have used a film like that. And by a film like that, I mean, we are going to have Glass Onion and Knives Out mystery. We're going to have Wakanda Forever. We're going to have Avatar: The Shape of Water.
Hmm.
But Killers of the Flower Moon would have been a larger movie made by a filmmaker who is from a different generation, and it is not a studio like action blockbuster type. Um, even Glass Onion and Knives Out's mystery. I kind of have this element of wait and see right now because it is like I don't know if it's going to be just the first one all over again or if it's
Yeah,
going to be something radically different. It's
right.
kind of tough for me to say. Where with Avatar: Shape of Water and Wakanda Forever, we've seen trailers and we have an idea of what they're going to be.
Hmm.
But Killers of the Flower Moon, just I feel like as a big across the board, above the line and below the line contender that would have gobbled up a lot of nominations. I'm gonna be, I'm sad to see how like I'm sad that we're gonna be like missing a film like that.
Hmm.
But that doesn't mean that Damien Chazelle's Babylon can't be that film.
Oh yeah.
We don't know yet, what the Fablemans looks like.
Hmm.
So maybe that is a across the board contender as well. So I mean, there are still other options, but it is just a little sad to know that our great cinematic master Martin Scorsese will have to wait, another year
Yeah.
to see what happens there. I do get a sense that there are less films this year
Yes.
than
Yeah.
in general. I think that's because a lot of things did move to
Mhm.
next year. And I do think that there are a lot of movies that are positioning themselves as award season contenders. And that means that since there are fewer of those on the table,
Mhm.
it leaves room for something that is not positioning itself as an awards contender, like these big blockbuster films, or something smaller that we don't have on our radar at all to
Right.
kind of come up from behind.
Yeah.
Maybe, and I was asking some friends this because I wasn't at Telluride the year that this film premiered, but I remembered I was asking some friends, what was the vibe like before Moonlight had its world premiere at Telluride?
Mm.
Did anybody say, "Oh man, this is going to be special"? Did anybody say, "Oh man, what was the vibe?"
Yeah.
And everybody said it was like an atomic bomb just like went off.
Right.
Nobody saw it coming, and when it dropped, the whole world just changed. You
Yeah.
know? And so I'm wondering, are we in store for something like that this year? And that's very exciting.
True. Yeah, I was gonna say I was trying to fill out my like best picture predictions,
Mhm.
and I feel like after like 6 or whatever, I'm really just kind of guessing, which I mean it
Well, we
always
all
feels
are.
like
Nobody
that. We
knows.
all
Yeah,
are.
yeah.
But in a way I'm like, man, I feel like there's like a big drop in terms of what was kind of expected
Mhm.
versus what's kind of left. So, didn't know
Yeah.
about that. But okay, the we'll get to a couple movies that everyone wants to know about. So, are you a believer in the Everything Everywhere All at Once will get nominated for Best Picture? Are you a believer?
So this is a hard question for me because I adore that movie. It's my number one favorite film of the year still at
Yeah,
this current time.
same. Oh, uh-oh.
So this is just me not wanting to get my hopes up,
Yeah.
but I do think the box office success of that movie this year, that is something that should be taken seriously.
Mhm.
I think if it didn't have that and it just made a little bit of money, but it still had this passion, then I think we would be looking at more of a long shot.
Yeah.
But I really do think that there is something special and unique about this film. I also think that getting Michelle Yeoh, Kei Kwan, and Stephanie Husseau and Jamie Lee Curtis, like getting them just out there
Yeah.
to do Q&As is I think going to be extremely helpful. And it's also a movie that luckily premiered early enough that it is allowed for people to catch up with it
Yeah,
before
yeah,
the other
yeah.
contenders come around, and it's so good
Mhm.
that it probably can last in people's minds even through the avalanche of new movies we're about to get.
Yeah.
So yes, I am a believer, but like with a lot of hesitancy because
Yeah.
A24 has been just it's been rough the
Mhm.
last couple of years. Minari, I don't really count as much because that was the pandemic year
Yeah.
where it was just a barren wasteland and anything got nominated, it seemed like that year.
Mhm.
So I can't say with full confidence yet that like A24 is fully back in the game to the point where, it's like Moonlight and Ladybird from 2016, 2017.
Mhm.
They've had a lot of other movies that should have been contenders since then, like
Yeah.
Eighth Grade or The Farewell, First Reformed, If Beale Street Could Talk.
So,
Wait, no,
yeah.
wait, if Beale
No, no,
Street
no,
was
that's
no, that was Annapurna.
yep, yep,
Sorry,
yep. Annapurna.
the other A company.
Yeah, that's right.
No, but like still though, my point still stands that this is going to be, I think, the real test. I
Mhm.
really think this is going to be the real test to see if they have the capability to take something that has the passion, and it's not just a small group, it's a very very large group of people with a lot of passion for this movie, and will they be able to run a successful campaign for it? I mean, it'll be very interesting to see, but that's part of the reason why I have hesitancy. But I can see a world screenplay, editing, Michelle Yeoh, the supporting actors.
Mhm.
Next thing you know, like the best picture nomination just kind of it just happens.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's actually the package I would probably go with right now
Hmm.
in terms of exactly what you just said. It's weird how like I think a couple weeks ago I was looking at my prediction for like supporting actor and I was like, do I really have like Ki Hua Kwan like at
You
number
should.
one? Like at number one? I was like, I don't really
He's
know. I don't
great in the
really. Oh,
movie.
he absolutely should be. But
And
I
you
was
know
like,
what?
man,
It's
he's
such a
one.
great story too,
Oh
considering
man, it would be so
child
good.
actor
Yeah.
took time off. This is his comeback role after all these years. I mean, like, what a story. So I think that can sell to voters if
Hmm.
if enough people, well, if enough people have seen Temple of Doom and Goonies,
Yeah.
and then they watch this and they connect with the movie, they connect with his character. I mean, when you really think about it, the only two things holding this movie back from going the distance are whether or not A24 is able to handle the campaign, and
Hmm.
then the second thing is if Academy voters think the movie's too weird.
Yeah. Exactly.
Those are really the only two things standing in its way. Otherwise, this movie pulls at your heartstrings. It is funny, it is memorable, it's original, it is invigorating. It is the kind of movie that when you walk out of the cinema, you literally are screaming at the rooftops, I love cinema.
Yeah, for real, for real. It's this movie is so tough because obviously I have it in for Best Picture right now,
Mhm.
but like there's just totally a world where this movie just is deemed too weird. Because to
Yep.
me, if a movie can be labeled as weird, that's almost like a death sentence for me, just personally, like looking
Mhm.
at it in terms of the Oscars. So like its ceiling is like it wins Best Picture, and then its floor is like it just gets ghosted. So it's a tough one, but good to know that we're hesitant believers in it, but believers
Yeah.
nonetheless. Let's go to a different box office success that everyone is just I never saw this coming.
Mhm.
Top Gun Maverick. Yes, it's made a bajillion dollars and it's just breaking record like week 11 just barely outside like the top 5.
They're never going to release this thing on 4K Blu-ray.
No,
They're just going to keep it in
never
theaters forever.
we're just never going to see it. We'll get it in like 5 years.
Yeah.
Is has it done enough to crack a best picture lineup for you?
No, because it needs to get certain precursor mentions to make me a real believer.
Mhm.
I I'll tell you this much, like Everything Everywhere All at Once, I actually do have it in my lineup
Okay.
low. I actually
Yeah.
have it at like number 9 or number 10. Actually, I think they are both number 9 and number 10 right now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I think I have Top Gun I have Top Gun at number 10 and Everything Everywhere All at Once at number 9. But that's just because that's just me being very conservative and
Yeah.
like just not trying to get my hopes up or anything like that. I love Top Gun Maverick,
Mhm.
and that's a movie that you go kind of going back to my conversation earlier, because some people will turn around and say, oh, he's being a hypocrite right now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
um yes, that movie was designed to make money, but that movie also did do some stuff with aerial sequences that I feel like audiences had just never seen before in terms of the
Oh,
way that
yeah.
those were captured.
Yeah.
So, in terms of pushing the medium forward, it does do that. I do think that there is actually a story there that is more thematically deep than people give it credit for.
Mhm.
However, it's just packaged in this glossy
Yeah.
Hollywood
Yeah.
studioized, version of itself that a lot of people are just kind of not willing to, like, I guess, like dig that deep to unearth what this movie is like saying in terms of like the old guard and like this. I think there's a lot of stuff you could kind of read into with it. I mean, it may not be intentional, but
Mhm.
there's a lot of stuff in terms of old Hollywood studio filmmaking
Yeah.
versus how films are being made today, and how, you know sometimes sometimes the old geezer, he's still got it in him. And that's
Yep.
very much Tom Cruise, at this stage in his life, 60 years old and still an incredible movie star. And let's not undervalue the importance of having a movie star in your
Mhm.
best picture vehicle. I mean,
Yeah.
we just saw it happen last year with King Richard and with Will Smith.
Mhm.
Him being as a movie star in a serious drama like that gave that movie a certain prestige factor to it that, you cast an actor who's not as big of a star as him. I don't know if it would have gone all the way, you
Yeah.
know?
Right.
Uh, I mean, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is also, a film with DiCaprio and Pitt, movie stars, you
Hmm.
know? So I think the audience, granted, I don't think they have as much value in movie stars as they used to. I'm talking about the
Yeah.
general public here, but I
Yeah.
do think Academy voters still do.
Right.
And so that's very, very important. And so, yeah, it's shaky. And depending on how many of the contenders later on in the season do well, I might kick it out. At the end of
Hmm.
the day, it's still going to get those tech nominations, might even get a win or two.
Right.
But I almost do see it like a Ford v Ferrari,
Yeah.
where it gets just those tech nominations and the Best Picture nomination. It's not going to get into like actor or screenplay or anything
Mhm.
like that.
Yeah. I don't remember who tweeted it, but like the Tom Cruise Best Actor. Never say never, but I mean, I
That's
don't see that.
that's a weak Best Actor field, let me tell you.
Oof. Oh man, that
And
would
that's not a
that
knock
suck.
against Cruise. I actually think it's one of his best performances in this
Yeah.
movie.
Oh, he's
I
great.
genuinely thought he was a really great in it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm sorry. Like, I don't even really need to see any other Best Actor performances like from later on in the year to know that
Yeah.
he's not getting in that lineup.
Yep. Yep. Uh, it's crazy how I wasn't even excited for Top Gun Maverick, and then after I watched it, obviously I loved it. I was
Mhm.
like, no way, this is not touching Best Picture. And then here we are. It would be in my 10 right now
I
if you press
legitimately
me.
walked out of the theater and I turned to my friend and I said, I think that could get nominated for Best Picture. And he was like, "Really?" And I was like, I'm gonna put it like this was before the review embargo, and I'm like, I'm gonna
Yeah.
put in my Oscar prospects Best Picture. You watch." Sure enough, when I posted my review and people saw I had it as a Best Picture like prospect,
Yeah.
that got screenshotted and shared around, and everybody
Yeah.
was like, "Is Neglia high? What is he
Oh
doing?"
man.
And I'm like, "No,
Yep.
you like." Yes, maybe I'm high off of cinema, but like at the same time, like this is the kind of rousing, feel good movie that harkens back to an era of movie making that older voters than yourself
Hmm.
remember still and live through and have a nostalgia for,
Yeah.
that is going to resonate so deeply with them that they will definitely have this at number one on their ballots for Best Picture.
Yep. It would be a great Best Picture nominee, which I would not have said a couple months ago. Okay, let's one more in terms of just a movie. To me, one of like the weirder question marks outside of like Amsterdam, which I really don't want to talk about, Avatar: The Way of Water.
Mhm.
I've seen such a wide range of that movie on other people's Best Picture lists.
Yeah,
I've seen some people be like, I don't understand why people are sleeping on this. This is another top five thing that had enough time since its sequel to reinvigorate them. Then I've
sure.
seen other people just completely go the opposite, where they said this will not repeat what the first Avatar did, whichever. I guess blankly, sight unseen, just how are you feeling about Avatar: The Way of Water?
So I think it's going to get nominated for quite a few Oscars, mostly in the techs.
Yeah,
I have a very hard time seeing how the technology could have advanced that much that the Academy is willing to give it picture and director nominations again.
yeah,
The story will have to be immaculate. The experience will have to be incredible. I'm even more skeptical on this than I am on the other films that we've mentioned. I don't have it in my Best Picture predictions right now, and I know that that's definitely not wise to underestimate James Cameron,
yeah. James, he just always does it.
because every time you underestimate that
Yep,
guy, he's
yep,
like, "Oh, I'm gonna make a $2 billion film.
exactly.
I'm gonna win a couple Oscars."
Yeah, yep.
He just, yeah. So I think there are two things that are hurting this movie. One is it is a sequel.
Hmm.
How many sequels have been nominated for Best Picture?
Uh, Toy Story 3.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
The return
Fury. Oh,
of
oh,
the
really?
King,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. All the Lord of the Rings ones. Yeah,
and
geez.
also The Godfather.
Yeah. Is that it?
Hmm?
Jesus. Okay, that's tough.
So,
Yeah, that's
how
tough.
good does The Way of Water have to be?
Right.
Do you think it's going to be that good?
Uh,
And the only
yeah.
reason why we're saying maybe is because of the whole never underestimate James Cameron. Now, I
Right.
have no doubt that he's going to give us a good movie. I don't
Mhm.
think that it's going to be a bad movie. There's no way that you take this much time with something and it turns out to be this terrible.
Yeah.
There's just no way.
Right.
Well, maybe there is a way, but I
Never
digress.
underestimate him.
Never underestimate James Cameron. I'm gonna have that on my gravestone.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I still think that it's the kind of movie that could get nominated for a few Oscars, even win a couple, like visual effects. I'm sure, like probably has walking in,
Yeah.
already.
Yeah.
But it getting in the picture and director again, that I'm definitely in like wait and see mode, but leaning towards no.
Mm. Okay. That's fair. I don't even know where I would have Avatar, honestly, right now. It would be the highest I would put it would be like 8. It'd be
Here's the
like,
other thing to consider too. Avatar: The Way of Water. We just talked about Top Gun: Maverick.
yeah.
Wakanda Forever.
Yep. Right there.
Glass Onion and Knives Out Mystery is being run by Netflix this year, and we know what they're like on the campaign trail.
Yeah.
So even if God, I'm just like imagining the possibilities right now. But could you imagine a Best Picture lineup that had, hear me out, all four of those in it? I
No.
can't imagine it either
No,
because
I can't.
it's never
Yeah.
happened before where you have that many big blockbuster films like that.
Yeah.
It just like it doesn't seem right.
Yeah.
So, which of those, if you're going to kick out, say two, which two do you kick out?
Oh man.
You see what I'm saying? This is what
Yeah.
you do in terms of like just process of elimination here.
Right. Well, not Top Gun. Honestly, I'd maybe kick out Glass Onion and Black Panther.
Okay,
But Black Panther's I don't know. I can see it for Black Panther though.
it's really
Even
tough.
still, I can see it. I can still see it.
I
Yeah,
think
it's a
Black
tough one.
Panther is going to. I really believe that that movie is going to surprise people because a lot of people are thinking that it can't be as good as the last one without Chadwick.
Hmm.
I have a very strong feeling it might even be better.
I actually do too.
I think you know why though? Excuse me. I think because there's going to be an emotional element
Oh
to this film
yes, 100%.
that's going to, I think, just strike a chord with people. And it's
Hmm.
going to be so, so strong.
Yeah.
And then in terms of, if they can do something else with representation in a way that made the first film a cultural phenomenon,
Hmm.
if they can somehow recapture that again,
Yeah.
I mean, to me, it's wild that that movie's going to come out like a month before Avatar comes to theaters.
That
Because
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
wonder if this movie is like massive and has a tremendous amount of legs on it too. It's
Hmm.
going to be just really wild to watch both of those films playing in theaters at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. That is interesting. And we've already gotten some questions about the blockbusters there. So maybe we can
Hmm.
touch on it again. But yeah, I mean I can't imagine 4 of them, honestly.
No,
Oh man, that'd be
but
crazy.
that's my point. That's my
Yeah.
point though, is
Yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
it's never happened where you have that many
Hmm.
$1 billion. Well, Glass Onion won't make that kind of
Yeah.
money,
Well, yeah.
but
I know what you mean.
yeah, my point being though is that law of averages. Let's say you could only have two.
Hmm.
So I would tell people that are wondering like which ones to predict right now. I would say start off with like two of those four,
Yeah.
and let's see where the rest of the season takes us. Right now it's completely wide open.
Yep.
Nobody knows anything.
We know nothing. That remains
Maybe none
true.
of them get in.
Yeah. Facts. Yeah.
Hmm.
True. Okay. So I think my subscribers would be a little bit pissed if I didn't at least ask you somewhat on predictions. Now, you haven't
Sure,
released your full one, so I'm not going to ask you, just straight up
there is a
because you are
reason for
teasing.
that.
Yeah, you've been
Yeah.
teasing something. So I'm not going to ask you for that. but in terms of just some general things, do you
I
agree
will
with
say
the
this. I will
yeah.
say this. I'll give your channel a little bit of a scoop here. Not like
All right.
anybody's going to pick it up, but um, we will be revealing our Oscar predictions on September 1st.
Okay.
And
All
there's a
right.
reason why we're picking that date, and it's very, very specific. It's a very, there's a very specific reason. But let's just say that there's been something that I've been working on for quite a while, and it will be ready by that time.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay, well, you heard it here first. I'm excited for that. I'm interested to see. Um, but in terms of predictions, I guess just more generally, do you agree with the consensus that it is Hugh Jackman versus Brendan Fraser as of now? Obviously, as of now.
As of now, yes.
Okay. Do you what are your thoughts on the Harry Styles, My Policeman, TIFF cast, recipient, all that? Any
Yeah.
thoughts?
Um, Definitely more interested in seeing it now than I was before.
Yep.
Still don't have a ton of confidence in it,
Hmm.
but curious.
Yep. Agreed. Pretty much same deal. Um, the we can kind of speed run through these.
Mhm.
The Fablemans, Too Simple to Win. Is it the front runner with Killers kind of dropping out and some others? Just what are your feelings?
Buzz on it seems to indicate that it's a player.
Hmm.
Maybe not one that would win Best Picture.
Yeah.
I've heard Michelle Williams is fantastic in it. So if she's campaigned, say, in supporting,
Hmm.
this could finally be her win, which
Yeah.
would be great. I would be very happy about that.
Hmm.
Um, I'm personally hoping to see Tony Kushner win finally.
Yeah.
I think he should have won by now, and I thought it was absolutely terrible that he wasn't nominated last year for West Side Story.
Yeah.
Um, but as Spielberg winning his third and also winning picture, not fully sold on that idea yet either.
I got you.
I mean, that's really, really tough. Is Spielberg winning director for a personal film like such as this. I don't know. At what point is the Academy going to get tired of directors making personal films and then winning Oscars for them?
Right. Right. Coming up. It's coming up soon, probably. Okay. Do you agree with, the consensus as of now that Margot Robbie kind of goes through the year as the front runner?
Ooh, good question. I'll say it. I'll put it this way. I have her at number one right now,
Hmm.
but no, there's obviously some wiggle room there still.
Yeah, totally.
She could fall out and somebody else could take her spot. But sight unseen before the fall film festivals, before we hear anything,
Hmm.
I do have her at number one. For a couple of reasons. One being it's a Damien Chazelle film, late Christmas release. It's a studio film from Paramount,
Hmm.
so it's going to be a pretty big movie. I think in terms of scope and scale. Um, I have heard that the role is substantial,
Yeah.
and she hasn't won yet, so that helps.
Hmm. That certainly does. She would be in my number one right now. And then some others that we've been asked about. We kind of touched on this a little bit, but is Ki Huai Kwan really the front runner for supporting actor?
Who else is there?
Yep. It's just yeah, pretty much.
Hey, you know what? I'm not upset about it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That'll be I hope that stays that way.
Oh
Jesus.
yeah, I do too. I would love to see it stay that way, but at the same time, I that's a really tough category right now.
Hmm.
There were some days where I have him winning, and there were days where I don't have him in the lineup at all.
Oh man.
So what I've done
Yeah.
is I've just defaulted to having him in the lineup and not winning for now.
Yeah.
Meeting
That's
some,
fair.
I'm meeting in the middle somewhere.
Yep. There you go. Okay. Cool. So we hit all that. Then we'll kind of get to some either speed run slash questions from Twitter, pretty much.
Cool.
Okay. First, Are there any thoughts on the Golden Globes right now that you want to share? Yes or no? Is anything on your mind?
I knew this was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I've known it now for a couple of months that this was the intention and that this was in the works, that they were going to come back.
Yeah.
Um, it'll be very interesting to see after so many people publicly denounce them
Mm-hmm.
who shows up,
Yeah. Yeah. I'm so interested in that.
because if they can't get people to show up, then they don't have a show.
Yep.
So that's the whole point. And then if people do show up in an attempt to represent a new image of themselves, is the evening going to be a very kind of scaled back, dull affair
Yeah.
without, the drinking and,
Right.
I don't know. But at the same time, I wouldn't put it past them to at least try to do something a little bit different in that regard, because they are trying to rehabilitate their image.
Yeah. I get that. Okay. Let's see. From Cybotico. If it wins People's Choice at TIFF, do you think Glass Onion can move its way up into a Best Picture nomination?
Yes.
Yeah. Same here. Agreed.
Netflix is behind it. The first film came pretty close.
Mm-hmm.
I would, I'm not saying like close, like maybe it wasn't number 11, or I mean, well, that year it would have been higher. But anyway, my point
Yeah.
being is that it didn't get a Best Picture nomination, but it was in the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
However, when you saw that it only got the screenplay nomination and nothing else, then the question becomes, okay, well, was it A Serious Man
Right.
where it got screenplay, picture, and nothing else?
Mm-hmm.
Because at least I remember there were a lot of people before nominations came out thinking, oh, maybe it can get a film editing nomination,
Right.
or something like that to go along with it. So now
Mm-hmm.
this year, what I'm looking at is I'm looking at the screenplay. I'm looking at, okay, are we getting in for that film editing nomination this time around? Are we getting in for a production design nomination? Is there anyone from the cast that we should be watching out for? I've heard that there is really, really good buzz around Janelle Monáe in this film.
Yep.
So there are some things to, I think, look out for,
Mm-hmm.
coupled along with the fact that Netflix knows how to run robust awards campaigns. So I'm not ruling it out.
Yep. Especially if it does win People's Choice. I mean, that would be that'd be an alarm for everybody. At least it should be.
I think so too. Yeah.
Okay, from Sam, with Killers of the Flower Moon out, do you think Apple will put more effort behind The Greatest Beer Run Ever or Cha Cha Real Smooth?
Greatest beer run ever. Unless if the
I do
reception at
agree.
TIFF is completely negative.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
if the reception at TIFF is even just somewhat good,
Yeah, yeah.
then they're gonna go for
Then
that.
yeah, they'll go for it for sure. Okay,
I'm sorry,
from
but like Cha Cha Real Smooth is too small.
yeah, I know.
And I know
Kind of
people are going to be
sucks.
like, well, look, Coda, and it's like, that was a Cinderella story.
It really was.
That really was like a one-off thing. That is not the new rule. If
Yep.
it happens this year of Cha Cha Real Smooth, then I'll start considering that we have a new rule here. But right now, it's the exception as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love Cha Cha Real Smooth, but yeah, I think it's too small. From Cho, which films do you think could get nominations outside of international feature? Examples: Triangle of Sadness for screenplay, Park Chan-wook for director,
I don't
etc.
think people realize that Triangle of Sadness is not going to be considered an international feature this
Yeah, it's
year.
like, isn't it like mostly in English?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, pretty much. So I've been wondering about this because I would normally say Decision to Leave, Park Chan Wook for director, maybe,
Hmm.
but Mubi is behind it. And I don't know if I have like so much confidence in them to get
Yeah.
that film to that point.
Yeah.
Neon's got Broker, which is a very encouraging sign, but yet also too, I don't know if you've looked at the reviews for it. They aren't as euphoric as something like Shoplifters.
Right.
So now I'm starting to doubt that. Then there is, oh, it's going to come to me. Lucas Doan's film Close
Oh
from
yeah, yeah, yeah.
A24.
Yep.
But then I was really, really shocked to see that it wasn't part of the New York Film Festival lineup. So
Hmm.
now I'm like, oh my God, like you better be going to Telluride at this point to try and find a way to bring this film back. But I was
Yeah.
wondering about him and director possibly. Um, I'm just kind of like at a point where I think that I think if there is going to be an international film that breaks through in other categories, there's a good chance we might not have seen it yet.
Mm. I mean, do you have Bardo in?
Oh, yeah, I mean, that's true.
Yeah, I keep
It's
forgetting that
funny
that's
because
like
that's
a.
like one of those ones where it's like it counts, but like I
Yeah,
wasn't
no, I
counting it like
agree.
on
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
level.
No, I get
Yeah,
you.
I mean the answer is yes, and I guess like uh, if it turns out to be one of those years, that will be the answer. But
Hmm.
I know a lot of people are going to look at it and go, no, I want a new filmmaker who hasn't been recognized by the Academy before with multiple Best Director wins to be the person that they recognize this year, So,
Right.
yeah, no, unfortunately, Bardo suffices as the answer until something else emerges.
Yep, I would agree. Another question from Twitter: what are Ana de Armas's chances in Best Actress?
The
I'm
same
not feeling
as
it.
Kristen Stewart's last year's for Spencer.
Oh wow, really?
Well, think about it. She has been nominated before, biopic,
Yeah,
going to premiere at the Venice Film Festival, which
yeah.
is where Spencer premiered. It's going to be extremely divisive.
Hmm.
It's going to generate a lot of discourse, and some people I think are going to really love its artistic ambition and the fact that it's different. And I
Yep.
think there are going to be some people who absolutely despise it.
Hmm.
And so, one thing though that I think that most people will be able to hopefully unite on will be her performance. Although I'm seeing a lot of people already criticize like
I
the
know. Yeah,
accent. Yeah.
you've already seen it.
So I right now, until I see it, I'll just say on the level of Spencer for those parallels. But I wholly recognize that the downside for it is much, much, much greater than Spencer's was because
Yeah.
for all the reasons that people did not like Spencer and how Princess Diana was shown on screen and treated in that movie,
Hmm.
I think that the way that Marilyn Monroe has such a following, especially from classic movie lovers, I think this is going to ruffle some feathers in a much more distressing
Oh yeah.
way.
Oh
And
yeah.
that could be the thing that brings her down in the end.
Yeah.
So the potential for the upside is about the same as Spencer's, but the downside
Mm,
is, I think, much, much greater.
yeah. That's a good way to put it. I don't even know if I would have her in my 10, to be honest. But
I'll have her in the
we'll see.
10. I'll have her in the 10 for
Maybe.
now,
Maybe she'll be
but
in the 10.
I don't have her in the 5. I'll tell you that
Yeah.
much.
Okay. Um, question from Juju. Will RRR become the parasite of this year? Is it more than just an international feature contender? No other foreign film has been talked about this much before award season.
We've already talked about this on the show a couple of times. We are
Yeah.
all in agreement that this movie should be selected
Mm-hmm.
as the international pick.
Who
I
knows if it
but
will.
we all think that's as far as it goes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
and
don't see it.
I think the very fact that if it got the pick, that would be like
Oh yeah.
the win
100
itself.
percent. Because it's not even like guaranteed. So,
Like
but
even
yeah.
though it wasn't nominated for international feature last year, I still have so much like pride and happiness from Titan
Oh,
getting
Titan,
the
that's right.
select. Yeah,
Yeah,
like
true.
I never in my wildest dreams would have imagined that would have gotten the pick
Yeah,
last year for the type of movie that it was. So
right.
that
True.
alone was gratifying.
That's a good way to look at it. It's a good way to look at it. From Selma, which movie do you think is more likely to get a Best Picture nom, The Whale or White Noise? I think I would go with The Whale.
I'm gonna go with the whale, but it's close
Yeah.
because the whale. I've heard from people who have read it that it can go either way.
Mm-hmm.
White noise, I feel pretty confident that that's not going to be a Best Picture nominee.
Same.
But, but I would give a greater chance of likelihood to the whale. Um, I'm not ruling either one out for the record.
Mm-hmm.
But as it stands, neither are in my current predictions of my 10 at this current moment.
Yeah, neither of them would be either. Um, where does The Sun max out in nominations?
Oh, see, this is tough because visually, we don't really know what he's going
Yeah.
to do yet. I mean,
Mm.
like, who would have ever have thought that the Favre would have gotten that production design nomination,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So who knows? Maybe there are some tricks with the editing. Maybe there's something with the score.
Yeah.
But I mean, in terms of the cast and in terms of like the parts that are written for all of them, I mean, the one thing I don't even want to say I feel comfortable. I even wonder some days if the kid
Yeah. Yes.
will be
Yes.
nominated. Like I'm like, yo, maybe there's a world where Jackman is actually not like lead, and maybe the kid
Yep.
gets in over him or something. Like dude, that's the thing about like this point in the season right now, is that until these films are screened,
Yep.
nobody knows anything right now, and so it's tough to point the finger and say, "Oh, this is definitely going to happen." I
Yeah.
mean, Laura Dern, Vanessa Kirby. You have Hopkins in it too. I mean, max out. I don't know about maxing out. I can't answer that. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like, ask me after I've seen it.
Yeah. There you go. We'll do that. Sight unseen. I don't know. It gets a lot of acting nominations, I guess. That's my answer. Um, from Max, who do you think could shake up the supporting actress race? I find it hard to believe that anyone could dethrone Michelle Williams right now.
Oh man.
Uh, see, I haven't even thought about the answers either. I mean,
I've been so laser focused on Michelle Williams in this category that like I almost do have blinders on for everybody else right now.
yeah, yeah.
So
Someone
yeah.
from Women Talking, Jesse Buckley, or someone from The Sun. I don't know. I haven't read the play.
So let me ask you this question. What if it's Mulligan for She Said?
Oh, geez. Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. She said, really. I was just, yeah, I guess that could be. I mean, it's tough to know from the trailer. And
Yeah,
I'm so curious about placements for them also.
of course.
But
Well, it
yeah,
looks from
I
what I
guess
can
one
tell,
woman.
it looks like it starts off with Zoe, and
Yep.
then she as in Carrie Mulligan gets brought into the story later.
Yeah.
So I would imagine they're they're either going to be co-leads, or Zoe's lead and Mulligan is supporting. It's not going to go the other way.
You don't think they're gonna like carol it and just where they put like Blanchett and Lead,
Ugh, I
Rooney
hate
Mara,
that. I hate that
yeah,
decision so much.
yeah,
So annoying. So annoying that they did that.
yeah,
I mean, God help me. They could, but they shouldn't.
yeah. They could. I wouldn't be too surprised if they did that, but hopefully not. At least from the movie. Let's see. Gosh, there's so many. What is it? What's more likely to be picture nominated? The Banshees of Inisherin, whichever.
I've been saying it is Sheeran.
Okay, fair enough. So that one, Triangle of Sadness, or The Woman King. For me, these are the outliers, so I'm interested to hear what you say.
Of those three, I would say the Banshees of Inisherin, because of those
Yeah,
three, only one of them has had a past Best Picture nominee.
yeah. That one could be like an acting screenplay package, I
Here's the
guess.
other thing too. Um, Searchlight knows how to get a Best Picture nominee.
Mm,
Now,
yep.
a lot of people will say that they already have that secured this year with Empire of Light, probably sight
Oh
unseen,
yeah.
of course.
Oh yeah. We haven't even talked about
But
that.
here's something for you. I think going back to 2010. Yeah, I think it's 2010. Searchlight has had a Best Picture nominee every year, going back to 2010.
Oh dang.
I'm pretty sure. I would have
Jeez.
to. I'm like working my way up right now,
Yeah.
and I'm trying to like think. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm pretty sure it goes that far back.
Dang. Well, there you go. That's a good stat right there. Um, we'll do a couple more. Which film do you think has a better chance to get into the Oscars? Broker or Decision to Leave? Both my South Korean representation right there.
When they say getting the Oscars, do they mean international feature?
I assume that's what they mean. I assume that's what they mean.
You know, I gotta go with Broker because Neon's got it.
Yeah. I think that makes more sense. But I feel like Decision to Leave's reception is better, but I think they would pick Broker if they had a pick.
I agree. I think Decision to Leave has the better ratings across the board,
Yeah.
but I can't argue against the distributor here.
Yep. Um, is Austin Butler essentially, well, quote, guaranteed a Best Actor nomination with everyone dropping out or a lot of
I
movies
am
dropping out?
not going to sit here and say anything is guaranteed right now.
Yeah.
I refuse.
Yeah.
His odds look better every day.
Yep. Pretty much agreed on that one. What's your most anticipated the rest of the year?
Good question.
Mine is Babylon, as everyone knows.
Mine would have to be The Whale,
Mm,
and I would say next behind that is probably The Banshees of Inisherin. Um, and then behind that is Tar.
nice. Can't go wrong with that. I think mine would be like Babylon, The Sun, The Whale. I think would probably be the rest. Um, will there always be more obstacles for comedies and horror movies with the Oscars?
Always.
Yeah, that's a
I
loaded
don't like
question.
speaking in absolutes.
It's a loaded question.
I mean, probably.
Yeah, yeah. I was gonna say, yes.
So let's look at it from this angle for a second, okay?
Hmm?
What horror movie from this year or a movie that has horror elements is most likely to get a Best Picture nomination?
Nope.
Baby. Not a bad guess.
Nope. Horror
And is
elements.
there anything else?
Oh gosh, see now I'm on the spot.
Oh no, no,
I
no. I'm
feel, I
not.
feel,
It's not intended to put you
I
on the
feel,
spot.
no,
But
I feel like I'm
the
forgetting something.
point I'm making is that it's a very, very small crop of films.
Yeah.
Like we just saw a teaser trailer today for Bones and All. That definitely looked a little bit more
Oh,
horror
yeah,
leaning than I was expecting.
yeah.
So now I'm
That's true.
curious about that. But yeah, my point still stands that there are not many.
Yeah.
So on the comedy side, though, there's a lot more to play with there. I've heard that Bardo has elements of comedy in it that are very similar to Birdman.
Hmm.
Glass Onion is clearly going to have some laughs in it. Triangle of Sadness, we know, is an absolute riot to watch with an audience.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that there's a pretty good shot for some comedies this year. Also, too, uh, listen, I don't know anything. I'm
Hmm.
just going by the vibes of the trailer,
Yeah.
but maybe Bros surprise.
Yeah. I've been hearing a lot of buzz on that one.
Mm-hmm.
So people are excited for that one. But yeah, I think they'll just always be at least perceived different. They'll always have more obstacles to go through, I guess, than just a
Right.
standard drama. But it is what it is. Let's just get two more questions. Will the MCU ever get another Best Picture nominee within the decade?
Ever or within the decade?
Within the decade. To me, if it's not Black Panther Wakanda Forever, I'm gonna say no.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with no on that one.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Their schedule is
I
starting to
think
worry
people
me.
need to understand and realize something, which is, and I've been saying this a lot lately. Once they hit Endgame,
Hmm.
I really do think that at some point this business model is going to burst. I don't think it's sustainable long
Yeah.
term.
Yeah, it will. I mean, that's like normal comics. Once it gets like too interconnected and woven, they have to like blow it up, basically.
Yeah,
So
and I just feel like they need to go. What's wrong with making a self-contained trilogy of films and not having there be any crossover or connected universes and stuff like? But unfortunately, they're never going to go back to that. This is their model. They've already established that this is the connected universe. They can't go back
yeah,
on it. So I just question at what point is the general public going to be so fed up that they're going to just start seeing diminishing returns.
yeah, yep. I think as someone who like enjoys most Marvel movies, at least on some level, I think it'll start to wane pretty
You,
soon. I think we're
yeah,
already
you
seeing it.
can't keep doing the same thing forever, and that's what
Yeah.
their plan is. Their plan is to keep doing the same thing,
Right.
which is introductory film, sequel, introductory film, sequel, sequel, team up film,
Yeah.
and then we do the same thing all over again.
Then sprinkle in the
It's
cameos every
literally
now and
like,
again.
The Walking Dead. It's like the characters are, walking from one place to another. They encounter a group of bad humans, fight them, move on to the next town, group of bad humans, fight them. It just, it's a never ending cycle, and it just keeps repeating and repeating and repeating.
Yeah.
And yes, there might be moments of brilliance along the way.
Mhm.
I have no doubt about that. But I do think that if you have this ever continuing story with no end,
Mhm.
people are going to get fed up and they're going to just stop.
Right.
I'm already struggling with the fact that I now have to add these Disney Plus shows on
Oh,
top of my theatrical
tell me
watching.
about it, man.
And I'm telling you,
Jeez.
man, I've already not seen I'm not gonna say which, but there are 4 Disney Plus shows I have not watched still.
Mm.
And I'm just wondering all the time, wow, if this keeps accumulating, at what point am I gonna just like not know what the hell's going on anymore?
Yep. It's when they release those schedules, it's starting to concern me with the shows, especially
Yeah, because
because
because what they want, dude, is they want this to be the only thing that you ever watch. They don't want you to watch
yeah,
anything else.
yeah,
That's the
yeah,
problem.
yeah. Um, okay, let's end on this last question.
Mhm.
After the best picture, well, after the several nominations for Drive My Car, moving forward, will critics have more of an influence on the Oscars?
I think people need to understand and realize that critics do have an influence on the Oscars. It's not that we've ever had less or more. I think it's always been there.
Hmm.
And I also think too that a lot of people should educate themselves and look back on years before they were born at the Oscars.
Yeah.
And what they'll see is they will see that movies like Drive My Car getting nominated for picture and director is actually not as shocking
Hmm.
as you would think it is.
Right.
You had people like Bergman, Fellini, Kurosawa, great, great legendary filmmakers getting their films into those best director races or getting nominations in other categories, even if they weren't getting into best picture sometimes.
Hmm.
So this isn't new. This is just something that I get it though. I understand that Drive My Car was purely a critics thing, and because the critics loved it so much, it got enough eyeballs on it
Yeah.
that it was able to muscle its way in.
Hmm.
That is so cool, and that forever that will be one of the coolest nominations
Oh
ever.
yeah. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
makes
Yeah.
you wonder about other years, like I look back on a year like 2011, for example, and a lot of people always talk about, oh, Bridesmaids or The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, and other films that didn't make it into the best picture lineup. But then I'm looking over and I'm like, what about A Separation? got
Yeah.
that got that screenplay nomination. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
But people also have to remember too, the Academy is no longer 6,000 people. It's
Hmm.
over 10,000 people.
Right.
They did invite a lot of younger members. It's more diverse than it's ever been before. Granted, they still have a long way to go towards getting it towards what I presume people want, which is either at 50% or above in terms of that diversity representation.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think anybody will ever be satisfied, no matter what number they ever hit in that regard.
Yeah.
But, I think that this is a different academy than not only 10 years ago, but even 5 years ago.
Right.
So I do think that we will continue to see more inclusions like that. And I think we will see also not just in the best picture race, but I think we'll see that across all branches of the academy. Maybe with
Mhm.
the exception of the acting branch, because they were the only branch this year with their nominations that seemed to be stuck
Yeah.
many, many
Yeah.
years before.
That's
I don't
true.
know what was going on there.
That's true.
Some of their picks this year like drove me crazy.
Yeah. That
But everything
that's a
else,
good
though,
point.
everything else was, give or take the French Dispatch missing production design. Everything else was pretty great.
Oh yeah. I mean, like worst person wrote screenplay.
Oh, that man. Let
That
me
was
tell you,
crazy.
that was like one of those things where it was like I can't even be mad about Denis Villeneuve missing director right now. I can't even be mad about
Oh
that.
man.
I
Yeah.
know, I know,
Yeah.
I know.
I
Hey, you
mean,
know what? I look at it this way with him in that scenario. It's like, I don't think it was a snub. I don't think it was anything personal. I really just think that it was a tight race, and he just barely missed. He had
yeah,
to have.
yeah.
You,
Oh,
there's
oh yeah.
there's no way that your film gets nominated like that,
Hmm.
and you don't make it. If you don't make it, it has to be super close.
Yeah,
And like the fact that Rizuke Hamaguchi is the one who got in there, like
yeah,
I'm not complaining.
yep, yep. And Villeneuve will be back next year.
And it's the other thing too
He'll
is
be
that he's
back.
gonna have another at bat.
He'll be back. I mean, 2023 for the 2024 Oscars, that is already looking kind of stacked, especially with
Mm-hmm.
Killers moving there. So that'll be good.
Killers, Oppenheimer, Dune Part Two, Barbie. Like next year's
Barbie,
already looking
yep,
incredible.
Maestro, Bradley Cooper.
Oh man, dude,
So it'll be a good slate next year. Hopefully. I mean,
Ari
dear God,
Aster with
hopefully.
Disappointment Boulevard. Let's
Yeah,
go.
that's right. 10 nominations right there, guaranteed.
Are you kidding me? Gonna crush the record. It's gonna get
Oh yeah,
15.
true. Okay, well, we'll end it there. I mean, thank you for coming on. This conversation was great. Like this was so much better than, and I didn't even prep you. So thank you
Hey, listen,
for
when you
all
eat,
the
live, breathe, sleep, all of the verbs. When you do that with this stuff, you can honestly like just start talking to me about it, and man, there's no telling how long I'll go.
yeah.
I've had conversations on the phone with people about this stuff for hours on end. I've hosted Zooms with the Patreon community for Next Best Picture where we've talked about this stuff for hours. I've
Hmm.
done Twitter spaces that have lasted for hours until like literally I remember there was one morning where the sun was coming up and I was like, I really gotta go. Like I was like,
Jeez.
I gotta try and sleep.
Dang.
So I really can go at this stuff at length. And there's so much that we didn't touch on.
Oh yeah,
There's
so
so much
much.
stuff that's going to be happening at the fall film festivals that I'm so excited about.
Hmm.
I'm going to my first TIFF ever this year, which is really exciting for me personally. I've been
Hmm.
wanting to go now for a number of years. I'm going back to Telluride again, which is my favorite film festival, even though it's the shortest.
Hmm.
And New York. I'm excited to. I mean, I live in New York, so that helps. But
Yeah.
um, I think that when they announce the spotlight section next week, I think the internet is going to uh, be set ablaze. I'll just say.
Dang. Okay. Bet I might have to make another trip out to New York. Shit, I don't even know. Gosh, I don't know how people do this so much. But yeah, I'll leave all his links in the description for the podcast, the site, the Patreon, Twitter, Letterboxd. Am I missing anything else?
Nah, man, that's already too generous.
That's okay. I'll have the whole little paragraph section down the bottom, but I know you're super busy, so just thank you for like giving me your time and everything. So I really appreciate it.
All
But
right, man.
that'll be it, guys. So thank y'all for watching.
Take care.